There are many ways to fame farm and level up your weapons and armor here in Albion Online. In this video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what I did to level up my weapons and armor, as well as the best methods as a solo player to go out and level up your weapons and armor to get ready for different types of content, whether it be by yourself or higher level content or for group or guild content. Now, I am aware that there are tons of different ways to fame farm in this game, and a lot of them work and a lot of them are very efficient. But for this one, I'm going to show you and just talk about the one that is the most efficient as a solo player, and that is going to be open world roaming. So open world is the best place to fame farm up your weapons and armor. And now when I talk about open world, I'm specifically talking about black zone. Now I have the fame multiplier percentages here for the zones, the different type of zones. You get more fame as you farm in each one. So when it comes to blue zone, you have 115% fame multiplier. For yellow, it's 140. For red zones, it's 230% multiplier, and for black zones there is a 320% fame multiplier. So when it comes to fame farming weapons, I 100% recommend going into the black zone open world and farming the open world mobs that you see out there, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more in depth here. I'm going to do a run with you guys and go out and show you guys how I would fame farm a weapon if I was thinking about leveling it up. Now you guys might think, hey, the black zone is full loot PvP, I don't want to be taking my set out there to fame farm, I've spent a lot on that set. And this is where the other trick comes in. So when it comes to fame farming up weapons or any type of weapons that you want to work on, you're going to be taking a 4.1 set, and that is the set that I'm wearing here for this video. Let's say that I want to level up daggers and I have a one-handed dagger that I want to work on. I put together a tier 4 enchant 1 set, and I do have a little bit more spec in it. I do have 1037 IP, but when I first started, I still used this method even when I was in like 800, 900 IP, and it can still work. And what you're going to do is you're going to buy this set, and as you can see here, my equipment is only worth 35k. So we're wearing the cheapest set possible, and we are going to go out into tier 5, maybe even tier 6 zones. Depending on the type of weapon you're using, you might want to go to tier 7, tier 8 zones, but they are going to be a little bit more challenging in a 4.1 set. You can get some real efficient farming going in tier 5 and T6s when you are trying to level up some of your 4.1 stuff. But for what we're going to do here is we're going to hop on our tier 3 horse. All we do is buy a tier 3 horse and a bunch of flat 4. We also have some beef stew to increase our damage a little bit. You can take fish, because fish does increase your health regeneration rate, so you could help it between fights. But we're going to eat this food just to get the extra damage, and now our equipment is only worth 32k. We didn't even take a bag. We're not even taking pots. We're not risking that much. We have a tier 3 horse. And outside the Martlock portal, we're going to go through this T5 to this T6. So I'll meet you guys over there. Okay, so we are now in the tier 6 zone that I was talking about, and sometimes if you want to push out a little farther to like maybe this tier 5 up here, you could fame farm up here all the mobs in the open world. But what I mean by open world mobs is there are all of these enemies that are standing along the different parts of the map, and they are scattered all over the map, and they're constantly respawning, they're upgrading. You can even find mobs that have a circle around their feet with some spikes on it, and they are worth tons of fame for your leveling. It's a very efficient way to fame farm. And what we're going to do is we're going to pick a pack of enemies to start with, and we're going to go about fame farming our dagger. So we can just kill every enemy we see as we're going through this zone. So we would just kill this mob. It's worth 2,260 fame. You also get might. So when it comes to might, you get to work on your weekly reward for your Conquerors Challenge, which is something you can only do in the black zone, as well as you can get these favor points. These can be spent in the city to buy more tomes of insight, some of the elders tomes of insight, or you can buy the Conqueror's chest crates that have a chance to give you tomes of insight for leveling, as well as silver bags. So you can also make money while fame farming out here, as well as working on your Conqueror's Chest challenge. And this tier 8 Conqueror's Chest has silver bags, it has tomes of insight that can be used for leveling whatever you're wearing, as well as there's a chance to drop a baby mammoth in there. So it's something that's very valuable to do, and something that can't be overlooked when you are working on doing black zone activities. So this is going to be one of the upgraded mobs that we can take down. So we're just going to do this real quick. We are in 4.1, so we do have to be careful with that. If you are in a build that doesn't have really any sustain, that is something you're going to have to be careful of. As for this one, its E does have a little bit more sustain for it. We also have a leech passive that we have on with this dagger while we're fame farming to just help us with our sustain a little bit more. Alright, 17,871 might. And our dagger's already level 1. So this will add up pretty quick, and this is how you just do it. You just go around the map just farming every single mob that you see. You're also going to see people out here in the black zone, so one thing to be careful of, if you do see another player, just keep moving. Don't even engage with them. Don't stay dismounted when people get nearby. Just mount up and run to a different spot and start fame farming there. At the end of the day, you're gonna die when you're out here. It is the black zone. It is a full loot PvP game, and there's people that are always looking for kills. But the good news is that you're wearing a 4.1 set, and it's only worth 32k. You're worth absolutely nothing. And as soon as you get any drops from these mobs that are worth any more than your set, feel free to press the journey back button, which only costs 5,000 at this moment. Depending on the item that you get, it should still stay cheap, and you can go bank it, and you can make some actually really good silver while doing this fame farming method. So while leveling up your weapons and risking nothing, you can be making really good money at the same time. So we would just clear camps like this, just keep running through different zones, clearing the camps and all the mobs that are in them, just one at a time. It's not showing the fame. That should have got dropped from that, which is weird. There it is. Okay, and we just took down that whole camp. And again, this is all we do. All we do is we circle around the different maps. We can go up to, once you get higher levels, you can go to tier 7s, all through these tier 5, tier 6s. The farther away that you get from the portal town, the better. You don't want to farm these zones right outside the portal town. You're just asking to get killed while doing it and just throwing away your sets that you're working with. But this is going to be the best way to fame farm. You're just going to do it open world. Whatever weapon you're doing, just put a cheap set on. Do not risk a lot when you're going out. And just get to it. Now, if you want to fame farm up the type of artifact weapons like the bear paws or a lot of like the fists of Avalon, the more expensive ones, I do recommend waiting until your bank is you have a little bit more personal economy before you start farming those ones, just because you're going to be throwing away sets, or people might see you and want to kill you more when they see like a bear paws, because they're worth like 276k. I think a 4.1 right now is like 100 and something, but that's just something to keep in mind that you're not going to want to take out first off, especially if your bank can't really take the pressure of it. Okay, the second place that I would recommend you fame farm as a solo player right now, and they're also going to be reworking it to make these areas better for solo players, is going to be the Roads of Avalon. Now, the reason I say the Roads of Avalon, and you could wear 5.1, or it's going to be a different type of risk in here when you are farming, is this wilderness areas. They have these new upgraded mobs that spawn everywhere, and they are worth tons of fame. As well as there's little different chest areas, and there's going to be 4 clusters. This one isn't a 4 cluster, but there is other spawns in the Avalonian Roads that look like a 4 cluster. It's like 4 different spots in a square like this, and there are tons of mobs in these areas to fame farm to get your stuff leveled up. And even if you want to take a buddy, if you do have some people that you play with, this is going to be a very efficient fame farming method. I've done it multiple runs with some of the people that I play with to fame farm up some of my weapons that aren't as good by themselves. But this is another place that has been recently buffed, and the buff is exponential. It's really good for fame farming. I've done a lot of fame farming in here as a solo player, and really what adds up is the wilderness mobs. If you can find some upgraded mobs like some of the Avalonian spearmen, or there are there's different, like there's monks, there's some spellcasters, there are some boss mobs that you're not going to be able to take out in the wilderness. But as for the Roads of Avalon and the Black Zone open world, they are both really good for fame farming up your stuff. And again, when I talk about the methods that I use to fame farm a lot of my stuff, my account is it's like 5, almost 6 months old, but I got all of my gloves done. I've been working on maces a little bit. When it comes to armor pieces, if we go all the way to the top of the Destiny board, I have been working on all my cloth helmets. So I have my cloth helmets all at 100. I have my chest pieces that I'm working on. I have my boots that are at 100, except for the new ones that were just released. So a lot of these items, and there's just different levels on weapons and armors that I have, but this is the method I use when it comes to leveling up the different item pieces and stuff that I want to in the fast and most efficient manner and the best bang for your buck. It's going to be open world farming. Obviously, at the end of the day, you could buy Tomes of Insight and just buff up whatever you're using, but I don't recommend doing that because you have to spend tons of silver. Not all of us have deep pockets, or we're just starting out the game, or we just don't have a lot of silver to spare when it comes to stuff like that. Now, the last thing that I want to talk about is going to be combat fame credits. Now, I'm going to briefly touch over this. There's a whole system and a whole formula of calculations that go into it that I'm not going to talk about in this video, and honestly, I don't even really think it needs to be talked about in a detailed manner. I don't know if it's really beneficial, but these are the combat fame credits, and there's also a tooltip for it. So it's called auto respec with the combat fame credits. So you take control of your combat fame. So once you reach level 100 in a combat node, any fame you receive for that node will be automatically converted into combat fame credits. These combat fame credits can be spent in progress other combat nodes you aren't as proficient in. What that's saying is, if I was to wear cloth robes, and because this is 100, I'm going to be getting combat fame credits because this is level 100. It cannot be leveled anymore. So some combat fame credits are going to be given to me here if I am wearing any cloth robes while I'm leveling. As well as if I wear, let's say, a scholar robe that I already have at 100 that I can't take any farther unless I pay for it. So essentially this is quote unquote maxed out. They will also be, the fame that I earned for this will also be converted into combat fame credits. And the way that these combat fame credits can be used, let's say if I have this at 90, I can click here and I can use these combat fame credits to level up the robe. And the reason that these combat fame credits are so efficient is because they have a 2-to-1 ratio against regular fame. So 1 combat fame credit is worth 2 regular fame that you would get from a mob. So that's why a lot less combat fame can be used to level up these armor pieces as opposed to the regular fame that would be needed to finish this all the way to 100. Another thing that you can keep in mind, if you do have a lot of silver, or your personal economy is doing really well and you have tons of silver to spare, without auto respec active, you only convert 20% of the fame you earn. With auto respec enabled, you earn 4 times as many combat fame credits while spending silver. So at the top right here, if we click auto respec, anything that we're wearing that is maxed and can't be leveled anymore. The same goes for this cloth. If we are wearing a scholar robe, if we're wearing a maxed out weapon, if I was to go fame farm with a one-handed nature staff or a one-handed spear that I have maxed out, we're going to be getting 4 times as many combat fame credits, but it's going to be pulling from our silver in our bag. So it's going to be pulling from our silver here to reward us with more combat fame credits. So this is something you can use if you're trying to generate tons of combat fame credits, so you want to level up things faster. I have used that for some of my, let's say my gloves. Like when I was maxing out gloves, I would be like, let's take the maces for example. Let's say I took these ones to 50, and then on the side I don't want to use the Camlin mace, so I would have been using any combat fame credits I had to pour into this mace to get it to 50 while I'm still leveling the ones that I actually like using. So that's something you can keep in mind. And you can use combat fame credits on anything. You can use it on your armor pieces, you can use it on the different weapons that you like using. Like I can even use it on sword fighter here, so I can unlock my tier 5 swords if I wanted to. I could take it all the way to 100 right now because I do have enough combat fame credits to do that, and I can instantly wield a tier 8 sword if I wanted to. This is just something to keep in mind if you do have some stuff maxed out and you are working on, let's say, other chest pieces and you have this at 100. Remember that this combat fame is going to be building up and you can be using it to help level up your stuff faster. I do have a couple honorable mentions when it comes to fame farming. They're not going to be as efficient, but there are some other things that you can get out of them, like silver and good amounts of fame, and that is the mists as well as solo dungeons. The new mist update brought the new solo and duo content to Albion Online. Inside those mists, there are wisps as well as enemies and PvE that you can farm, as well as camps you can clear for fame rewards. It's not going to be as proficient as open world farming, but again, it is a solo method. It is much safer than open world because there are zergs and lots of large groups in open world. But when we're wearing a cheap set like this, we don't care if we die in open world because all we have to do is pay another 32k, get a 4.1 set, and go back out there and keep fame farming so that we get more value out of our higher level sets. The other one is going to be solo dungeons. Solo dungeons are really good for silver. I do have a couple solo dungeon videos on the YouTube channel that cover how to run those, how to safely run them in the black zone, as well as some of the profit that I receive from running solo dungeons. And I will always recommend solo dungeons to newer players because you can make really good silver, as well as the fame over time will add up really well to level up your weapons. And it's really good exposure when you're using new weapons to run solo dungeons because you can get used to the rotation, as well as how a lot of the abilities work on your armor pieces and your weapon. But that's gonna be it for the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you learned some things about fame farming your weapons. If you did enjoy the video, make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next video, and I'll see all of you in Albion Online.